Hello, this is the Tradesight Forex Market Preview and International Economic Data Roadmap for the week beginning Sunday, the 22nd of February 2015, ending Friday the 27th. This will be the end of February already. Next Saturday, the 28th, last day of the short month. Here's a look at the U.S. dollar index daily charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal. You can see we've been very, very flat for the last 3 weeks or so after a steady climb from August all the way into late January. So this has been kind of a flatter period for us. It started after that Swiss National Bank announcement, frankly, and we've got all the situation over in Europe and dealing with Greece that's been slowing things down a bit, I would think. So it's been fairly flat and fairly contained. Here's the euro-dollar daily chart over the same period. Obviously, you can see the last 3 weeks been very flat here, to the point where you've basically been in about a 250 pip range for 3 weeks, which is really poor on the euro. Pound a little bit better, lifted off a bit this week. Here's the Aussie, also dead flat. New Zealand dollar barely moved at all as well. Pound yen, to look at a cross pair, a little wider ranges, but not really going anywhere. So it's been a stable yet boring, and certainly not the type of period where we would make a lot of money in the Forex market when we're not going anywhere. Let's take a look at the intra-week action. We're going to start with the euro dollar in 30-minute bars. Then we'll look at the economic data that's coming out this week. So you can see from last Friday's close to today's this Friday's close, we basically lost about 8 pips for the entire week. Range from high to low was 170 pips. Remember, we usually trade 130 pips per day on average, so even if you have some overlap, we were seeing more like 300, 350 pips a week for a while there, and that was good for us. This is really, really poor action, and it was back and forth the whole time. You know, Monday had a down move, Tuesday back up, Wednesday had a down, and then back up, Thursday had an up, and then Friday was down and back up. So, you know, there's nothing there that's consistent where you can get in and stick with the trade and make some decent money, and the intraday ranges were too small for much else. Here's a look at the pound, which literally, pound dollar, literally closed down a pip for the entire week. That's pretty exciting. And range here was also about 150, 160 pips as well. And this one is even flatter a couple of days. It's really only Monday and Wednesday where it had much in the way of moves, and those were on news. So it's just not an active trading environment for us either way. So we need something like this to tend to change up. We don't have any major signals on any of the big time frames in terms of Comer, Seekers signals. So we really just are trading this week. Now, there is a lot of data coming out this week to wrap up the month. So let's start looking at that and then get going. So we've got China's on bank holiday for the start of the week. Credit card spending out of New Zealand Sunday night, and then going into Monday. German IFO business climate, CBI realized sales out of the UK, existing home sales here in the US, 30 minutes into the stock market. That's at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We've got Japan's SPPI number. China remains on bank holiday going into Tuesday. We've got New Zealand's inflation expectations number. And then going into the wee hours of Tuesday morning, we've got German final GDP. That's for the fourth quarter. We've got the Swiss employment level. We've got CPI out of Europe. We've got corporate profits out of Canada. We've got the housing price index, the S&P number out of the US in the morning. And then the flash services, PMI, and consumer confidence. Fed Chair Yellen is testifying to Congress. I think that's a 2-day. Yes, it is. So that starts Tuesday. That can move the Forex market, the initial comments in particular. Mortgage delinquencies will be released sometime this week here in the U.S., and then the Richmond Manufacturing Index. Canada, you got a speech from a Bank of Canada governor. Construction work done out of Australia. Wage price index out of Australia. China back open. We've got HSBC and flash manufacturing PMI going into Wednesday. Switzerland's UBS consumption indicator. UK's BBA mortgage approvals, the second day of testimony by Yellen, new home sales here in the U.S., and the crude oil inventories. That's a weekly number. Heading into Wednesday night, we got trade balance and visitor arrivals out of New Zealand, private capital expenditure out of Australia, German consumer climate out of the Europe. This is 2 a.m. Eastern time, starting out Thursday. Got the nationwide housing price index out of the UK. German unemployment change, money supply numbers, and private loans out of Europe, along with Italian retail sales. Got the second look at GDP out of the UK, along with preliminary business investment there. Italy's 10-year bond auction. We've got CPI out of Canada and the US. That is one of our big three, the US CPI number each month, so we'd be half size ahead of that number. Also, the weekly unemployment claims and durable goods all released at the same time, then followed by our housing price index. Natty gas, that's a weekly number as well. Got the building consents number out of New Zealand that night. Japan does a data dump at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time Thursday night with household spending, Tokyo's CPI, and the national Japanese CPI, along with unemployment rate. And then 20 minutes later, preliminary industrial production and retail sales, New Zealand's business climate, UK's consumer confidence, Australia's private sector credit. We've got housing starts out of Japan, German import prices and preliminary CPI, French consumer spending, Spanish CPI, Italian CPI, and then in the U.S., the second look, not the first look, even though it says preliminary, that was the advanced look last month, was the first look. So this is a little less important because we already have a range, but it's the preliminary GDP for fourth quarter, then Chicago PMI, pending home sales, University of Michigan consumer confidence to wrap the month, and then Saturday, China releases their manufacturing and non-manufacturing PMI data. So it is a busy week for data. CPI is the big one of the big three there, but a lot of other data points to be aware of, and certainly a lot more than we saw this last week. So hopefully it will be something to move the market and get things going out of this range. And again, we may get a gap to open the market Sunday if they get the settlement either way out of Greece, which is being much discussed, obviously, and hopefully either way, that'll get the markets moving once again back to where they were like for many months. Everybody have a great trading week. We'll be in the lab helping you out. If our videos are useful, please like us on YouTube. We do appreciate that. Have a great trading week.